Hi, and welcome to RELEX Talks, an event that is happening every second Wednesday each month, where we're covering different kind of topics that might be inspiring you, or that we want to share information or share insights. I will be joined today by Jill Standish, who's the global retail of Accenture, retail lead of Accenture, and we have Laurence Brenig-Jones, who's VP of Product Strategy at RELEX. Please welcome them to this event. Hi, Laurence. Hi, Jill.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome. I've just introduced you, but maybe you could give a bit of your background about yourself. Could you start, Jill?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name's Jill Standish, and I lead the retail practice here at Accenture. I spent my entire career in the intersection of technology and retail. So when I walk into a store, I know like the cash register and what it does and all that. I live outside of Boston. So I'm here in Boston coming to you live. And that's a little bit about me. How about you, Laurence?
Thanks, Jill. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, hi, everyone. I'm Laurence Brenig-Jones, VP Product Strategy and Marketing at RELEX. So what does that mean? Well, I focus on talking to our customers to understand what's changing in their world and how should that affect the RELEX roadmap. So I can talk about some of the innovations that we're doing and how we're working with our customers to really help them with all their challenges. I can understand from their perspective as well. 5 years ago, I joined RELEX from Waitrose in the UK, the grocery retailer there, where I led supply chain teams on a daily basis. So I kind of understand the operational environment too.
So today's topic is going to be a sneak peek into a survey or some results of a survey that we are going to launch later this month. This report, we surveyed nearly 300 retailers and CPG leaders about some of their challenges and investment areas that they see. And also how they see opportunities for growth in the coming years. So today we're going to touch upon some of those areas that you can find in the report. First of all, the greatest challenge that supply chain has seen to improve efficiency and accuracy. One of the things is consumer demand volatility. Also global events and disruptions, and the inaccuracy in sense of consumer demand. These are our findings that are maybe not surprising for us to find, but what is more surprising is that we're still seeing this challenges coming up. Just to as a first comment, Laurence, what would you see or think about these topics?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. It's exactly what we're hearing from our customers. Really, we're seeing them challenged by volatility at both ends of the value chain. So there's still changes in supply that are challenging the whole supply chain. Meanwhile, we've got consumers who are shopping differently all the time. There are new ways that they're shopping. There are new influences that are affecting their buying behavior as well. So really, we're seeing those two forces coming together. And then in the middle, of course, you've got the challenges of facing with increasing costs in kind of making all of that work together.
And what about you, Jill?
Yeah, I agree with Laurence. I do think I'm hearing a little bit of supply chain ease coming. It's not there yet, but it's easing a bit. But I'm also seeing this squeeze that every retailer is going through around protecting their margin. They're trying to keep prices a little bit, as low as they can, because they know inflation, and especially in the grocery environment, it's tough for consumers to make ends meet right now. There's certain markets like the UK where, the energy costs and mortgage rates going up. So the fact that your monthly nut, as they say, is really tough, and how much disposable income do you have left to go feed your family? That's tough today. It's also tough in North America, and we're seeing that in other cities around Europe and also in Asia. So retailers are at the point where they're saying, I need to be there for my customers and consumers, but I'm also trying to figure out how to keep my profit. And so things like labor cost, Things like going private label and working with suppliers and forcing suppliers to maintain their certain cost levels. I'm seeing that happen a lot. I'm also seeing the word efficiency on the agenda. How can we leverage efficiency to actually do more with less? So that's especially around labor today, because the labor side is, I think, getting a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting findings, and I think that's what we're seeing all over the world, right? How can we keep the costs down, and labor cost is one big part of it. Going to one of the more specific findings in this report was that search buying has got something that got its name during the pandemic, but today we see that social media is starting to influence more and more the consumer behavior. And have you any ideas, or have you seen how companies are starting to tackle this influence in their to follow the consumer behaviors? Is that something you've seen happening? I don't know, Jill?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, social, depending upon the segment, social is a big top of the funnel topic. How do you get demand to your brand? And so social has been on everyone's list. I think if I can enter the Gen AI conversation, because Gen AI, we're in a hype cycle right now around things like conversational commerce and hyper personalization. And the ability to do that today is coming from this new technology. And if you think about it, we just celebrated in November a 1-year birthday of some of the large language model technology that's coming out. And just think of how adoption of that kind of capability is now entering into our society. It's not just entering into companies, it's entering into our society. So the ability to go into, whether it's on Meta, like in Facebook, or go into even Google search is changing, or even if you go into ChatGPT and you type in things like, give me the best jacket for my trip to Boston, boy, you're going to get a very different answer than traditional search, because search was paid for search. And so I think the big thing that I'm watching is companies are starting to say, how do I show up? How does my brand get to be on the end of that search? It's a new way of search, and it's almost like a black box. I can't pay for search results anymore. I actually have to make sure that I'm making sure that I'm sticking close to my brand, so that if someone says, I want the best down alternative coat, I better make sure that my down alternative messaging shows up somewhere. So attribution and brand authenticity is, I think, really top of mind for everyone today. I also am seeing new language like synthetic and semantic search. So instead of saying, give me that red dress from name the brand, how about what should I wear during spring? And that semantic thing of saying, oh, the trends for spring are a red dress with a light bag and flat shoes. I don't know if that's true, but if that's the result of that search, where are people getting that information? Are they getting it on your website, or are they getting that because they're on Insta, or they're on TikTok, or where are they getting that? So I think to net this out, who's doing the recommending? And I think that, to me, is going to be really interesting to watch, especially in the next, let's say, 12 months, is a lot of these large language models are going to be influencers, which is going to be really fun to watch.
And what
yeah,
do you
maybe
think?
I could give a perspective in terms of, well, what are we seeing our customer base doing? I think this social media influencing is part of a bigger theme, which is just that uncertainty of consumer demand for many reasons. And we have seen a real kind of shift from the time series based demand forecasting of the past to the ML forecasting and beyond, because that is so much more able to pick up valuable real spikes in demand that matter and actually need to be managed in a way with more inventory, for example. So we know that we've seen customers who have actually progressed with RELEX through this journey, where they've been a customer for many, many years. they've taken on board our latest ML forecasting, and they've seen a really significant improvement in forecast accuracy, talking about 5-10%. And that is in dealing with all of the uncertainty we have today. I think the other thing is that retailers really need to experiment with the data sources, and they need a model that can accommodate that. So we're seeing customers actually bring in different streams of data to see how it can improve the accuracy. Weather forecasting is a kind of a traditional one that we've seen for many years now, but it could be anything else. And I think this is where the question is, what kind of streaming data could actually help that accuracy with regards to social media? Because of course, some of this you just don't know. And the key with the ML forecasting is that it needs to be tuned in a way that it actually identifies meaningful outliers, not just random ones, because of course there's always going to be spiky demand. But the key is that if you have a model that can actually look across the portfolio of stores and the assortment in a way that intelligently picks out the pools of products and sees where there's a spike in demand, then that is actually more valuable. That's where you can have the engine prompting an exception, an alert, so that you can have a look at it and see what you can do. The other thing is that we have things like step change detection. That's again a new capability, completely in contrast to traditional methods of forecasting. So ML almost has the ability to kind of understand, yeah, you're going to see these step changes in demand, and it can be something that is normal and not a kind of outlier that needs to be ignored. So I guess what we specialize in is kind of making sure that we codify all this experience of working with retail data, working with the fact that there's always unknown unknowns, and how to make that work in a way that empowers a user so that they can understand, where is there a spike that's meaningful? What does it mean for my inventory levels? What does it mean for my merchandising decisions as well? And I think that's where Jill's going, that ultimately where retailers want to go is not only are they reacting to these things, but they're able to control them and actually be an influencer themselves. I remember, back to my days in Waitrose, ultimately the retailer is trying to generate demand through all sorts of means. And that might be a special recipe or something where suddenly you've got ingredients that are going to go flying. So I think it's actually becoming not only a responder to these demand spikes, but also controlling and forming them.
Yeah, just that whole idea of maybe creating spikes rather than responding to spikes. Maybe that's, I love the RELEX technology, because you could see, where things are in the value chain. And if, for example, there's some fresh produce that is going to be, coming to the point where it's not as fresh anymore, could you spike demand to move it? Through recipes or suggestions, or being a trendsetter. When I'm talking to grocery leaders, people in the food business, I'm very honest with them and say, I love to cook. I don't get inspiration from your website. Sorry. I don't know any grocery chain, so let me be a little provocative, who's got a great recipe suggestion. I mean, if you're a great cook, you go onto Epicurean, or you go into recipe.com, or you go into Delish. And so do you really go on to Waitrose.com? No offense, Waitrose, if you're listening. And so how do they start to become the curator of maybe inspiration, so that I don't have to go to, Epicurean? Because if you think about it, if I go there to find a fantastic recipe, could it be linked to things like, if you know that I'm a vegetarian, why aren't you serving me up recipes that are vegetarian? And could it be linked to my budget? And could it be linked to what's on sale? Could it be linked to what's fresh? Could it be linked to what's local? So imagine connecting all those dots to be so helpful for a consumer. I mean, I know that sounds so far out there, but with technology like you're talking about, Laurence, we can do some of this. I mean, amazing. But it is, if you think about it, especially in the food business, inspiration doesn't necessarily start, through social to the grocery store. It starts with like inspiration around food, and then you have to kind of do the leap from that recipe over to, where do I go buy it? So it's a really interesting capability that I think with new technology like Gen AI and the technology that RELEX has, we can stitch those things together and be super helpful to consumers today.
Yeah, I think that's clearly where we're heading, right? And the big question is, have the retailers realized, and what measures are they now looking into to be the ones driving this influences? I don't know if you haven't had anything else you wanted to add, Laurence. You were nodding as well.
Well, Jill mentioned Gen AI. I think we probably need a whole episode on that topic.
Yeah, sorry. Hey, listen, it's the buzzword of the day. Come on. But listen,
I hope everyone understands. Yeah, we have a product there already, and it's obviously key to productivity, helping users understand exactly what's going on, explaining the analytics, and driving a better outcome. So it's a very exciting area as well. I think when it comes to really predicting demand, we feel like the specialized AI that we've kind of fine-tuned for that ML forecasting is one, that is where we're seeing the biggest benefit right now. So I would urge, if you're still in your kind of traditional time series models, if you move to ML, you can see increases in forecast accuracy, and actually you can start to collaborate better with your merchandise team, commercial, to use that exact same solution to start to actually influence the demand and plan everything else. So, I think that's kind of where we're seeing, the most successful players at the moment.
Yeah. Listen, I think I always do this really fun talk around AI in general, and so you just brought this up, Laurence. So let me just comment on it. I always say Gen AI doesn't do math, which it actually generates text and images. And I know that's overly simplified. People come up to me afterwards and say, "Jill, it can do math." I go, "I know, but if you just keep that in mind, where we've had predictive or prescriptive analytics that said what happened. Then we had predictive, which is saying what will happen or what could happen and give you suggestions on what to do. But now we're in this Gen AI. Now, listen, those other two AIs didn't go away. As a matter of fact, they're probably more bolstered by Gen AI maybe being able to interface to that information by being able to talk to it. But you're right. The work that you guys do is we're talking serious AI ML. Gen AI is not going to replace that. No way. Not in my lifetime. How's that? Let's not be confused. It doesn't do math.
No, exactly. But you could ask it, how should I best respond to this demand spike? And it will tell you.
And it will tell you. And it might be wrong, but it'll as long as the corpus of data is great, then fantastic.
Yeah,
it's a fun topic.
So yeah, no, I was going to say it's definitely an interesting topic, and it will be exciting to see how retailers now turn around and start using this technology to be able to drive the demand, right? Be more in the driver's seat, and how to connect it and make sure that they're not just reacting, but they are proactive in this context.
I think it's going to really change what we mean by loyalty. If we, my earlier example of, I don't go to a grocery website to figure out my meal planning for the week. But oh my gosh, what if I could? And what if I could say, listen, the other thing about Gen AI is it remembers. So if you knew that I had just, cooked these 4-5 things for my family, you're not going to recommend that again, because people get bored of the same food all the time. Or at least my family gets bored of the same food. So if it could actually tell me, okay, Jill, last week it was these 3 things. Next week it's going to be these. And by the way, it's in your budget. No, by the way, it's on sale. And oh, by the way, it's, we've got a special running on these things. Connecting those dots for me and being super helpful. I mean, fast forward, could it also say, by the way, you're going to do your shopping on Sunday. You're going to put meal number 3 Wednesday and Thursday in the freezer. So I'm going to remind you to take it out on Wednesday morning for Thursday. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, so that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking forward to, which is all of this data exists and behavior exists. And now can we get to some hyper personalization and efficiency around, bringing us back to RELEX here, spotting demand, responding to the demand, but maybe even creating it. If you've got inventory that you need to move. I mean, that to me is, we're getting into some really fun areas here. And I think the future for those retailers that can kind of think that imaginatively around this technology, I think the future can be really bright. If not, companies like Amazon, we're coming out with Rufus, which is going to be a recommendation engine. People could be left behind. And so being curious and being uncomfortable about this, I think, is my recommendation, which is get dirty with it, because it's happening around us. It's happening in other segments of retail. It's happening in travel. You can go on JetBlue and say, get me someplace warm, and it'll go in and start to say, where's some flights, and start to think about imagining a vacation. So if people are going to be able to do that for their travel, don't they want to do that for their shopping? And I think the expectation of the consumer is going to go up on this one.
Sounds very, very likely, yes. Do you have anything else you wanted to add, Laurence, on this topic?
No, maybe a quick one just to say that, we focus quite a lot on grocery, but we're seeing many other verticals very influenced by this. And in fact, health and beauty is probably one where the impact is bigger than any. And that is also where there's often very, very broad assortments, often assortments kind of brought in as one shots and things like that. And it really kind of just indicates like how important it is to have a very granular view of your inventory and understanding of how you can drive the demand to kind of meet your targets, on a kind of, weekly, monthly basis. So, we're working a lot with, retailers that have very, very different kind of types of assortment. Same with DIY as well, like the very broad width, and some slow movers in there that can often be subject to these significant spikes. So, just to sort of mention that it's across the board in terms of the different types of industries.
Thanks. I think that was very good and insightful thoughts around the topic. Let's move to one of the other findings of the report or the research we've done. It's about the collaboration between supply chain partners and retailers, and that the fact that most retailers, or more than 33% of the respondents called out that a joint forecasting is something that is becoming crucial for collaboration strategy between the retailers and the supply chain partners. Do you have any examples of these situations? Maybe you, Laurence?
Yeah, and first of all, this is a supply chain nightmare, isn't it? Because basically, as soon as a consumer hears there's a shortage of something, guess what happens? It's a demand spike. So you have a demand spike and a shortage. Like, it's just the perfect nightmare. So, and obviously we did see that happening a lot in the pandemic, but, it's something that can happen at any time, any moment. We have some examples. Yes, we're seeing an increasing trend for customers to actually seek ways to collaborate more with their suppliers. We have very different types of retailers using RELEX to connect to their supply base and share a single plan and work together on that. A couple of examples there on the website. Cora, French grocery retailer, AutoZone, based in the US. And they're all trying to achieve the same thing, which is that visibility upstream and collaboration with their suppliers in a data-driven way. And that means they can plan things like campaigns, promotions, new product launches in a much more seamless way, much more controlled. And also it helps, if there is disruption in supply, is something that can be recognized as soon as possible in a data-driven way, again, so that you can understand what's that ripple effect across the full end-to-end, understanding all the way back from the consumer demand through the supply chain, all the different constraints, and with that extended visibility of those key suppliers. And that's really taking things to the next level. And I've heard very positive feedback from the retailers, and also that they are hearing their suppliers like this, because they're getting accurate order forecasts, which really helps with their production planning, for example.
And you, Jill, what has Accenture been advising your clients on how to build a framework of collaboration or the best practices in the around this?
I mean, certainly there is some fantastic examples in different segments of companies saying, I'm going to share my point of sales information down to the store level so that the supplier can actually start to do their own like vendor managed inventory. And that's been around for a while, but I think it was also really from the larger companies, that could afford to do that. And so, but now with tools like what RELEX is talking about here, which is getting information down to the suppliers so that they can, but also put what is the constraints on those suppliers so the retailer knows production and capacity and raw materials, et cetera. I think that to me is super exciting for chasing the waste, getting better information flow, even planning down to the labor needed down at the store level because of when things are arriving. I love RELEX. Some of your taglines are, stop doing stupid things. If you just looked at all of the inefficiencies that exist around moving products around and ordering inefficiencies, my gosh, there's so much to clean up that is just very basic, I'm sure. And it's really nice to see that now. We always say things like, I don't know if you remember these old phrases, but the glass pipeline, could I see where anything is in any point in time? Well, are we getting to that now? That phrase was very old, but are we getting to the point where now people can see and understand where things are in the life cycle of product flow, all the way down to manufacturing and maybe even to raw materials? That to me is lovely. And I think because I'm a big ESG and sustainability freak, if there's a way for us to get to the point where we can eliminate waste and get more efficiencies with transportation and then linking that back to how the retailer's running their business. You mentioned promotions is a fantastic one. How do we get that all linked together? I think now that you've got this capability, Laurence, and you're seeing clients actually use it, is lovely. And if we can just keep that moving and also report on it, because regulatory demands are coming fast and furious, and being able to report, where did it come from? Was it manufactured in a certain way? Is this a regenerative farm? Even in the apparel space, I know that's not your jam, but in the apparel space, it's also really important to see what factory it was made in, et cetera. Is it really organic cotton? So that to me, that transparency, regulatory, and also just, smart business and efficiency, there's a need to do it. And I think we're just scratching the surface. We can keep going. We can keep going all the way down to even the farm, which you guys have some really great case studies around. So yeah, it's chase the waste.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, chasing the waste is probably going to be a separate topic, right? We could spend hours just talking and discussing that and how we can help and giving really good examples of how we've helped customers so far and our vision of what we can do in the future. I'm really sorry, but having fun the time is going too fast. We're coming to the end of this session. I wanted to thank everyone who's been participating, thanking you, Jill and Laurence, for the really good discussions. RELEX Talks is a monthly event that is happening every second Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. ET time. The next event is going to be on the next episode on the 10th of April. So I hope you all will be joining then. Until then, watch out for the report that this discussion has been based on that will be launched at the end of the month. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.